Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's JESSINHO. So we won, so it's always good to, start off a week with a win. I had to wake up at 4 a.m. for that game, so I'm very happy that we finally won one of those early kickoffs. It was a game where I felt like I learned a lot about this team and about Arteta, whereas I felt like other games I didn't really have that opportunity. A little shaky in the beginning. We'll get into that and why the goal happened, but ultimately a good game. I want to apologize for being late with this show. I know usually I do them on Mondays and I wasn't able to do it yesterday. So I know I'm a little bit late, but at least I wasn't as late as Willian was to his Arsenal career. Yeah, you guys, I have jokes. So, let me go ahead and introduce my amazing panel. Whoop, whoop. Hey, guys.
Get out of my head. Get out of my head. Because as soon as I came on, I was going to say, oh, look at this. A minute in and Jess has got jokes. Then what do you say? Yeah, I got jokes.
Everybody.
No wonder we get along so well.
Welcome everybody that's in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and say hello. We have Tanner here. He's been here before, so you know what you're going to get from Tanner. But we have a newcomer.
Baby.
We have a newcomer to the She Knows Arsenal family. It's Gooner Sulz, aka Let's Debate Footy. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you've been up to for the last month or so.
You can find me on Gooner Sulz, Let's Debate Footy. I do now have a YouTube channel. It's looking like it's going to be a battle of the beards. It's going to be a battle of the fire. Who's got better, energy? Because Tanner's bringing it today. You're lucky my barbers aren't open. You're lucky Boris has kept that locked down. So I've had to, do a DIY job on this.
Oh my God! I pray to God Andrew's talking about you.
How annoying!
Wait for bad take.
So apparently, Drew only watches my streams to see if I have bad takes, and then he texts me later, making fun of me about it. So that's all he's here for. So thank you for being here. I'm not going to have any bad takes today, so there you go. Yes, BX Gooner. Yes. It was an early kickoff. Tanner, it was what time for you? 7 when the game started?
7 a.m. for me. Yep.
Yeah, and
I actually didn't sleep at all.
Oh no!
No, I was out working Saturday night, and I got home at about 1:30 and tried to sleep. Set my alarm for 4:45 because I did the pregame show, and just couldn't find. I was hungry. Get some food. I'm like, this is awful. I don't want to eat this late, but I'm hungry. I need to eat because if I don't eat, then I won't fall asleep. And I put a movie on, a movie that I've seen, but 100 times before. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna get invested in this. And meanwhile, like, ooh, what's around the corner? So yeah, and I just didn't sleep. So Sunday was a rough day.
Yeah, for sure. And I made sure I set my alarm for 3 a.m. so that I could get the lineup and react to it. And I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't very interested in this lineup. When it first came out, I was like, oh, I know that we had to rotate. That's obvious because, for every single person that was rotated, you could kind of see why they needed the rest or, why we needed to rotate. But nevertheless, to see that lineup was like, oh my gosh, I just got that little bit of nervousness. So let me know what you were thinking about the lineup. I know you're usually pretty positive, when lineups come out, you don't usually freak out. So how are you feeling about the lineup, seeing Willian and Pepe and Elneny and the whole gang?
Just before, when I seen the lineup, I actually tweeted straight away saying, am I a fool to think that this team will get the job done? Because when I look at a team, I don't necessarily look at the names. I see what they're going to bring to the game. And that's how I react. And I know it's hard when you see Willian, when you see Xhaka and Elneny, like players that have never worked together. all season, even last season under Emery, when you do see El Neni and Xhaka, you never seen them to have the partnership that you think would break a Leicester team down. But I always say, look at the individual and what they can bring rather than the name, because that's the stigma that a lot of Arsenal fans do bring. And I'm not going to say I was completely confident, even though I thought I can see why this lineup was brought out. But man, you said it at the beginning, Willian turned up. Where the hell did that come from? And that's, one thing I want to say, that's what we wanted. Every Arsenal fan that said Willian isn't a bad signing in hindsight, this is what we wanted. Not what we've been seeing, this negative, lethargic. He seems like he's the one that's been playing every single game, and he's tired because he doesn't have any energy, no smiles. And this is why I'm saying Arteta's got this dressing room smiling, because that's all I've been seeing, the joy. But it's like they won a World Cup or something, and now they've come in. Every single player has got the biggest smile on their face. They want to be there. And like even the goal celebrations, they're coming from the sub benches to come and celebrate a goal. That's how much energy and passion this team has now got. So I've got every belief now that any player that comes out on that pitch will give it 110%. And I like the lineup, to be honest.
I think when you look at it on paper, you like the lineup, but just in the past, that those particular players have not really showed up. But Tanner, for you, do you think that this was more of an Arteta tactical type of approach to a lineup, or do you think it was mostly, the changes were enforced by needing to rest certain players, because you could have looked at it and said, maybe, I want people to be fresher, but maybe Willian is nice on the left for this particular reason. Let's play Emile Smith-Rowe with Laka because they have a nice combination, and Pepe is going to absolutely destroy this left back. What do you think?
No, I think it was more down to rotation than anything else. When I saw the lineup, and I did the tailgate show, and I think to a man, every single one of us on the panel agreed that this was a lineup to get us through this next 90 minutes, rest some key players. We're focusing on Europa League. That's our path to Europe next year or next season. But and then the players turned up. The players turned up. The one player that a lot of people had a problem with was Mohamed El Neni, and I was a little disappointed to see him in the lineup. If you watch any of my shows, when El Neni plays, you know my theory on El Neni. He might be 70% the player that every other player around him is, but he's going to give you every last drop of that percentage. He's going to give you 100% every time he steps foot out there. If you're Mikel Arteta, you have to look at this game and say, okay, well, how did we do it? Right? We didn't do this we didn't score. Let me rephrase. We didn't score off of the slow build-up, the possession type game. This came from speed, from hitting them on a break when we got the ball in transition. That's how we scored goals. That's how we score goals. That's what this team's tactical strength is. Use the pace that is in this team. Lacazette can still play a role in a system like that. But just to answer your question, I think it was pretty much solely based on rotation. I don't want to say Arteta got lucky with it, but I just don't think this is what he expected. And I'm going to say this, and there were two teams out there. Leicester were not good. They had a few glimmers of hope there, but they really just, even their goal. You give them credit for the goal. I don't. That's on us. That's on us.
But don't we have to give Arteta a little bit of credit for probably realizing that the Leicester team is going to be tired and making sure that he put out a energized group of players versus maybe going with the stronger players, but knowing that they'd be tired. And I don't really buy I know Leicester I think they were more tired than not a good team because, they still had some of their best players out there. Those players were just, tired. I think what I really learned from this game is that, if they show up, we have a really good second string. that can help us get to the end of the season. Because you look at the teams that are really struggling, right now is like Leicester, Southampton, Liverpool. These are teams that don't have squads. I mean, if you have the chance to bring in an on-form Pepe, a Willian, a Lacazette, and Emile Smith-Rowe, and then in the next game you have a Saka, Martinelli, and Aubameyang, and a Odegaard. I mean, that's pretty good. I think that, I don't really agree with he got lucky because, he's been trying this, but I've seen that. I've seen that. So even if it's not coming from you, I did see, the assumption that he got lucky because these players showed up. But I think that he knew that if they just could turn it on one time, that we would be okay. And I have this weird feeling that Willian is good in practice. I think he's good in practice. So Arteta was hoping that at some point it would show up in the game. But for some reason, I think this guy is a really good practice player. Well, and that's why he keeps playing.
He's like a workout warrior. He's like the dude that looks great in the gym, and you see him in the gym and you're like, man, I bet that dude could kick a ball, 60 yards. And then all of a sudden you get him out on the field and he tries to kick the ball and he's like Charlie Brown with Lucy pulling the ball out from under him. He just completely missed. Now, the thing with Willian, let me say this real quick. I don't want to bogart the show here, but let me say this real quick about Willian, because the one thing with Arteta, the style that he wants to play tactically, this is going to sound strange, and I'm not saying this. I've been thinking this for a while. Maybe I just wanted to wait for Willian to have actually have a good game.
Drew, here comes a take. If you're still watching, Drew, here comes one of those takes. Go ahead.
Wow. You don't even know what I'm going to say. Anyway, Willian is a player that, as of last year, was a player that would really fit the system that Mikel Arteta wants to play. And Jess, I'm taking this from you because you're the one that's I heard this from you first. He wants to play a very intelligent type of system. He wants to play the way that Pep and City play. That's how he cut his coaching teeth. Willian is an intelligent, technical, clinical footballer as of last year. He he's a veteran. He knows the city. He knows the league. He checked every box for Mikel Arteta. Everybody said, I can't believe Mikel Arteta brought Willian in. And hindsight's always going to be 20/20. But when you look at the type of player he was, when Mikel Arteta is thinking, I want to bring this player in, he checks every single box that Mikel Arteta wants in a player from a technical and IQ standpoint. IQ is the way that you've put it, Jess. So I think finally he showed it on Sunday. Yeah. I think we finally saw what it was that Mikel Arteta was looking for out of Willian on Sunday. And if Drew is still watching, thumbs up or thumbs down on that take. I'm curious.
Yeah, for sure. And so I want to bring Sulz in really quick about, Tanner said that, we need to lean more into scoring, goals kind of using pace. But I kind of disagree with that just a little bit, because I think what we're starting to see is that we can actually score in different ways, which is something that we couldn't do last season. Against Benfica, they had a low block. I know that it was dire and it was kind of slow and methodical, but in the end, we got the goals. Are you excited to see the team kind of be able to work out different ways to score goals? And does that bode well for Arteta moving forward? Because
I've put a tweet out saying I've followed Barcelona since 06-07, like week in, week out, religiously, just like I do with Arsenal. And obviously Arteta being, a Pep understudy, he's going to have a lot of those traits that Barcelona would have had. And I'm telling you now, if you thought Barcelona were dominant and you watched that week in, week out, these Arsenal fans would have gone into a frenzy and wanted Pep out as well, because this is how they played. They played this negative, what they call negative football. But that's actually not the case. When you look at the Benfica game and when they have low blocks, the reason why Arteta said we're not going gun-ho for this is because you've got to be methodical with the way you pass. The more you lose the ball, the more you're going to come under threat. That's why he said to Xhaka, that's why he was saying to Partey, be negative, revert and recycle the possession if you have to, because the chances will open up. I always say football, and players off the ball are like magnets. You have to attract that player to make the move happen. If we look at, I believe, for Pepe's goal, for example, every time, when Tierney and Willian, they did something magnificent. And this is why I say Cedric is better for the system. It doesn't mean Bellerin's a bad player, but but it's just the way we want to move forward. Cedric works better because every time what happens, right, is when the wingers are your crucial points to any attack in any sort of system, your wingers are going to have the most focal point in your attack. What you need your wing backs to do, or even your left-sided or right-sided midfielders, is to attract the wing backs coming in. So essentially, you want those players to become a magnet to move the player out of position, and that's what Pepe did to Ricardo Pereira. A lot of times, he dragged him away from the bylines and allowed, you know, Willian, or because they were interlinking and they were switching sides quite a lot. That's what you need to do. You need to magnetize, and that only happens when you've got intelligent footballers. And that's why, you know, when Tanner said, you know, Willian is that sort of breed of player, he's not wrong when he says that, because football now, especially in the modern day, is worked on IQ more than your ability. Because there's players with magnificent ability but never make it because they don't have one thing, footballing IQ. Iwobi never made it because he never had the footballing IQ. The end product wasn't there. And even if you look at Pepe's goal when Willian came in, a lot of people would have gone for a goal. But what he did, he disguised the pass and he chipped it over knowing Willian was there. And that's why I always say about people, you know, when you say an Arteta, and when I always say, don't look at the result. Yeah, initially complain when we lose, but go back and have a look at how we're trying to dismantle teams. It's going to take time because guess what? This is where the modern day Klopp does it very well. Pep does it very well. Nagelsmann does it very well. When you look at even Real Madrid, that's what they do. They want to bring players in that are going to be magnets to players. And that's how you win games. It's not when people say Arteta got lucky. Guess what? I'm sorry to say you haven't watched the game because we pressed in threes. That doesn't happen by chance. That happens because that's being drilled into them. Every single time Leicester, you know, played any sort of ball, we have three players. So if the first player never won it, the second will. If that didn't happen, the third will definitely get the ball. But we never allowed the third player to get to the ball, because the second one will 100% win that ball. And that's the energy and intensity. Is going to take time. Because even when we look at Bielsa at Leeds in the Championship, why do we always look at them as an attractive way of playing football? That takes years to drill in and get that fitness level, because we've had lazy and lethargic players through the years. And that's when we bring in those players. And that's why I'm saying to people, just please bear with it. Because I'm telling you, you know, when we say we regret players going, we are definitely, and I can mark my words right, Juan Laporta is not a mug. That dominant Barcelona side came under his presidency. And if he's looking at Arteta, as a fan base, open your eyes and have a look at what this man can do as a manager and as a coach.
Here, here. Well said. Yeah.
I probably was going to say the exact same thing, you know, but you just beat me to it. So thank you for, you know, yeah. That's exactly what I would have said. Yes. Yep. The show's over. Why did me and Tanner even show up? That was so good. I love that. You know, I love that. And
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that was spot on. Yeah.
Even Drew liked it. Drew doesn't like anything.
And he doesn't like anything I've ever said in my whole life. Like literally, for you to get the stamp of approval before me, it's a little pathetic on my end, but like, good job. Good job.
No, thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about, let's get this out of the way. The goal, you know, another slow start, come to be expected. Some, you know, at this point, it looked like Xhaka and Willian had a little miscommunication over there on the left-hand side. And then Tielemans strips us of the ball, kind of runs just freely. You know, Xhaka did a kind of like a half jog behind him. Marie never came over. When I originally watched it, I thought, oh, this is Marie 110%. He definitely should have went to that ball. But then when I looked at it again, I thought El Neni should have come over. He wasn't marking anybody. He was just kind of backing up as well. And so just kind of looking at that, I'm not quite sure. It's like, is it a concentration issue? Is it what is happening? Why do we keep doing this? But ultimately, I just think that these are things that we're going to have to kind of nip out next season. You know, they're getting punished really harshly, and I can't nail down what it is, but I'm just hoping that in the future we just we have to nip those in the bud. You know, I think if we have maybe a different person in there, maybe they come over, but El Neni and Ceballos tend to like to stay in their spots. I think, especially in the beginning of the game, I think what Arteta pretty much tells the team is to be tight and compact in the first 10 to 15 minutes. You don't really see people moving out of their spots until we kind of bypass that first little flurry. And so maybe he didn't want to come out because he didn't want to leave anybody for dead or whatever, but miscommunication. Tanner, kind of, how did you see it? Do you think it was an El Neni issue, a Marie issue, just everybody? Just what do you think?
Same exact thing that you just said, because I literally just watched it 15 minutes before we came on the air. And yeah, it's El Neni needs to come over more. Let Vardy, because he's trying to stay in front of Vardy. Let Vardy run into Pablo Marie and David Luiz. That's where he's going. Let him run in there. That said, it's a little bit of pass the buck. You know, you take him. No, you take him. No, you take him. No, you take him. And nobody took him. And the ball ended up in the back of the net. So Marie does need to come over at some point there. You can't just it's on Pablo Marie and it's on Mohamed El Neni. El Neni should have come over sooner. Pablo Marie should have come over later, if that makes sense. But I think they're both to blame. They both just kept backing off. I mean, Tielemans probably could have walked the ball into the net. He could have walked the ball probably up to Leno at the very least. So
I mean, somebody has to take responsibility and come over. Go ahead, Sulz.
This reminded me of Aston Villa again. It's a similar position. It's on that left hand side again, and I've looked at this and I looked at the Villa goal and I wanted to just identify why this is happening. And everyone's writing what they're saying, but you know what it is? It's reactive defending rather than proactive, and it's football. Again, it comes down to being intelligent footballers. Because all right, Xhaka did make that mistake, 100%. You know, it should not have happened. We shouldn't be in a position to let the ball go there, which is fine. But we still have, from about, you know, I say a third of the pitch, he had to run. Why did no one, and this has happened, Holding did it to, you know, Sterling when the header, we keep backing off. And I don't know why that is. And I am coming to we can now start blaming if it is Arteta coaching these players like this, because it's too many defenders doing it. But for me, it's like, I've always said, if your coach is telling you something and the scenario is different, be a bit intelligent and understand the way the game is being played. And I don't understand what this backing off system is, and I don't understand whether it's a coaching issue, because even under Emery and Wenger, we seem to be like that. We weren't going in. I always say it's aggressive defending, but not to get a red card, but be a bit aggressive with the way you approach, because when you give players space, especially Tielemans no mug, give them players space and they're scoring. It's not about giving them chances, it's about giving them space.
Yeah, I really just think it could be a combination of lack of communication, lack of confidence, you know, a little bit of grogginess from the early kickoff, miscommunication. I think it could just be a little bit of all of it. But ultimately, if we want to progress in this league, we're going to have to nip those in the bud. Like, we can't be doing those, like, because we're getting punished harshly for every single little mistake that we're making. But luckily we were able to come back, because I mean, at that point I was so, you know, kind of disillusioned at that point. I was like, oh, here we go again, you know, but we were able to come back, you know. Let's talk a little bit about Pepe, you know, Pepe. Like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? He had Thomas on toast. I mean, you know that you killed somebody when they had to come off at halftime, literally. I mean, he was really, really good. And I thought that he was dangerous and, you know, confident, which is something that we don't usually see from him. And I think now we've kind of we're separating now that it's not really about him being on the left or the right side. It's about surrounding him with the right, you know, parts around him to feed him the ball in a certain way so that he can be successful. And this is going to kind of move us into the Bellerin and CEDRIC conversation, but I just kind of want to, start off by isolating on Pepe. What was the difference this time around. You know, this is kind of the Pepe, and I still think that there's leaps and bounds for him to get to. I don't think that this is 100% Lil Pepe. But what's been the difference for him in the last couple of games that we've seen him kind of come into form, where we're seeing a different type of Pepe than we did maybe last season? Either one of y'all.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not Pepe, it's the wing back that's allowing him to be the player we knew he was. Because there's a weird stat, and don't quote me exactly, I might be a few off, but I believe in the City game, Bellerin found Pepe, I believe it was between 3 to 8 times, and CEDRIC found Pepe in this Leicester game 33 times. I might have my numbers a little bit off, and I do apologise, but it was significantly more times that he was found by the wing-back. And I've always said, look, the wing-back has always got to make decoy runs to allow the winger to come in or cut out. And if you've got, because they're always going to get doubled up on, but if you then have a decoy runner, whether it's the wing-back or whether it's because obviously we play with a DM, and that's where the issue comes. We can't have that central midfielder be that decoy runner because we need them to do the defensive and stay central. And when we break it down even further, when Pepe was on the left, who did he have? He had CEDRIC and Tierney. So it's not where he plays, it's who he has with him. And Tierney's brilliant at allowing the wingers to make space, but just by him running. He doesn't need the ball to create space for anyone. And that's what CEDRIC does really well, because CEDRIC will always go and run to the corner line and really get into the edge of their line on the corner line. And what that does, it drags the wing back with him. So all Pepe has to do is beat one man instead of beat 2 or 3. And that's simply great. And we know when Pepe has space and he can run, he's unplayable. And that is the £72 million winger that we all seen. And it's a system you have to put him in.
Yeah, I'm just everything you just said, Sulz. The other thing I'm going to
should we just go home? Should we just go home and let Sulz do the rest of the show by himself? Yep. Are we even needed here?
Right. The only other thing I'll add to that too is there is some IQ there. There are still some IQ issues there with Pepe, but he gets those ironed out. And if he brings the effort that he brought on Sunday every single day, because we've seen him play with CEDRIC before, and yeah, he looks dangerous, but he didn't look as invested. On Sunday, he was a man on fire. He wanted to take this game by the throat and just kind of drag it kicking and screaming into the win column for us. That was Nicolas Pepe that I saw on Sunday. Sulz, it was like I think somebody said actually 7 times. GD 7 times. Bellerin found. So you were right. Yeah, you said 3 to 8, and it was the difference is staggering when you think about it. It's 33 times CEDRIC found Pepe versus Bellerin. It is a system thing. It very much is a system thing, because when Bellerin and CEDRIC are not. I know you wanted to get into this a little later. I don't know if I'm going to segue into it now or not. But
can I just say, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Pepe had smiled in this game. When have we seen Pepe smiling? That's what I'm going to say.
There was a move, and I'd have to go back and find it. It's in the second half, and it was we were already up 3-1. Pepe had the ball on the right, and he cuts back, but there was a camera angle, and they were showing a different angle that was actually looking at Pepe face on, and he had a smile, like he had a smirk on his face. It was like it was almost basketball reference, if anybody gets it. When Michael Jordan took a free throw and closed his eyes, he was kind of jawing at a player standing there, and he was like, yeah, watch this. And he closed his eyes and he took the free. That was the look that Pepe had on his face. It was a bit of a smirk, like, you really want to do this? You sure you want to do this? And that's a confidence thing, is my point. When you start smiling like that, you're playing with an insane amount of confidence. Like, nobody's beating me today. Nobody's stopping me today. And yeah, that's the biggest thing with Bellerin, and CEDRIC are 2 very different fullbacks.
Yeah.
CEDRIC is going to be that overlapping fullback, make those overlapping, like Saul said, decoy runs even. Bellerin's not going to do that. Bellerin's going to drive that inner channel and try to create something, and that harkens back to his winger days at Barca in their academy.
Yeah, I just think that this all goes back to, chemistry and being able to win games against different opponents in different ways, and I think that that's what we're starting to see. And, we'll kind of get into the CEDRIC versus Bellerin thing. For me, it's not so much about who's the better right back. It's about who plays better with who. I don't think I think Bellerin and Saka work well together. Is it Bellerin, Ceballos, and Saka, to me, are a nice little triangle there. They play well together. They're able to create openings and to progress the ball, especially Bellerin. He's really good at doing that in the middle third, and progressing the ball through traffic in order to get us to the next phase of play. Whereas CEDRIC plays better with Pepe because he stays away. Bellerin drags his defenders toward Pepe, and Pepe needs to be isolated. So I just think we're starting to see that there's certain players that play better with each other, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as we, recognize it and put those people together. It's just like the center back pairings. We're starting to see that. To me, the weakest center back pairing is Holding and Gabriel. To me, they don't work together. I think Gabriel is best with David Luiz, and I think Marie is best with Holding. So you're starting to see those, those combinations come together. Even with Emile Smith-Rowe, I think he plays better with Lacazette, whereas Odegaard plays better with Aubameyang. And there's nothing wrong with that. That gives us the opportunity to attack, win games, score goals in different ways, which is, I think, a strength rather than a weakness. But I guess I just want to kind of, in terms of the fan base and this constant obsession with trying to kind of cut Bellerin out, and make CEDRIC playing well kind of an attack on Bellerin. Why do we think that is when it's not like Bellerin hasn't had decent spells this season? And CEDRIC's also made mistakes. So why do you think it's like an obsession with the fan base to pit one against another, in that way?
Controversy. It's just, it gives us something to talk about. It's a bit of human nature, I think, maybe to try to cut someone else off the knees to make someone else, even yourself, seem taller. And I think that's just what the fan base does here. It's, if you're CEDRIC FC, you've got to cut, Bellerin off the knees. And if you're Bellerin FC, you've got to cut CEDRIC off the knees. And mostly because, I hate to say this, but I think it's a bit of a fact. You get large sections of the fan base that just like one player over another. They don't know why. They just like that player more than the other. And all of a sudden it becomes, well, I got to chop him down to make my guy seem taller. And that's all, so that's all I got on it.
Yeah.
I just simply think it's because, unfortunately, I just don't think Bellerin suits the system we want to play. And I think when he had his ACL injury, his recovery pace was what always got him out of trouble. And now that he's kind of, I'm not going to say he's lost his pace because he is still decently quick, but he's not that quick anymore. So his sort of limitations as a defender are now coming out a little bit more. And he does leave us exposed at the back. He doesn't take up good positions. He doesn't seem to be able to bomb up and down like a CEDRIC or a Tanny, for example. Or even when Maitland-Niles played that position, he seemed to have a lot of energy going up and down the pitch. Whereas when Bellerin goes up, he seems to not be able to recover quickly enough to get back into position. And he's this season especially, in previous seasons, I didn't criticize this, but he seems to be a ball-watching defender. He seems to get drawn by the ball rather than understanding what he needs to do as a right back. And I'm not going to say like Bellerin's rubbish or he's crap or he's, any of that. But, it's the same as when I always talk about Xhaka, because when people criticize me for praising Xhaka and actually how he's not a world beater, but he's a good player. And that's what I say about Bellerin. But unfortunately, he doesn't suit. It's like if Aaron Wan-Bissaka came in. We know how good he is as a right back, but he simply wouldn't fit our system and the way we try to play football. And that's all it is. I think it's down to people just understanding what kind of system they want to play and not understanding against certain oppositions you can't play a Cedric and you have to play a Bellerin. And that's why that's why we're fans and not managers or coaches. That's why we don't get paid millions of pounds a year to make those decisions, because we understand the game, but we have our limitations to the understanding because we've not been coached up, to be a manager.
Yeah, for sure. It's just kind of annoying because why can't we just celebrate the players that have played well without having to go into this? I mean, there's a chance that Bellerin may not even be here next season. We know that Arteta likes him, and they have.
But I say Arteta, apparently, there's something that's come out from the camp. I don't know exactly how true it is, but apparently Arteta said to Bellerin, "Can you give us this one season, and then the following season we'll look to move you on?" But I don't know how true it is.
And I wouldn't be surprised at that, because it seemed like at some point he was interested in leaving and then he was brought back in. So for me, it's like, I mean, look at the Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation. He would not commit to the right back position, so we needed to keep Hector Bellerin. He's not my favorite right back. Like, I think it's just a style thing. It's just a preference thing. He's not my preferred version of a fullback, but I'm trying to look at the way that he's playing as more of like, this is a part of the system, and Arteta is like, this is what Bellerin is good at in my eyes, so I'm going to play him like this. So a lot of the things that Bellerin does is enforced by coaching. It's not like Arteta sitting there silent while Bellerin is leaving, whatever, the center backs by themselves, leaving his pocket, ball watching. It's not like that. So to be so harsh on Bellerin when he's just doing what the coach is asking him to do, I think is a little, I do question some of his mentality and his physicality and his ability to be a true fullback in this league. I like Tierney style more than Bellerin style, but it's not like he hasn't been good for us, this season. He's just having a rough patch. And some part of that it's just weird about the fan base. I don't really get it, and I don't think he'll be here next season. I really don't.
And it's I hate to say this, but I don't hate to say it. It's the truth. Everybody has a voice now. Everybody has a voice now. And chances are the more negative you are towards one player or the other, the more your voice is going to be heard. It's just the way that social media is. It's just the nature of what social media is. It gives you the ability, it gives you a platform to have your voice heard, but it also gives you a platform to, if that voice is going to say nothing but stupid crap, it still gives you that platform. So it's, negative takes are always going to be the ones that generate more conversation.
Right.
That's simple. So
Exactly.
it might not even be down to the players themselves per se, as much as it is the people that are slating them. So,
yeah. You guys smash the likes and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to read out some of your, whoa.
I was about to smash the like, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I might break my keyboard.
Gently touch the likes. Gently
just click
touch
it.
the
Just
like.
click. You just gotta click it. Just click
so,
it.
don't break your phone. But yeah, so I'm going to read out some of your guys' comments. I think some of these are really good. Lone Star Londoner says, Bellerin's defending is atrocious. Villa, Leicester, Spurs, Burnley attack our right because we are weak. Even if Cedric goes through poor form, he has far fewer inherent limitations than Bellerin. Hecky B's runs have proved important against Chelsea last season and Man United this season, but that was in a back 3-5. I think that's also a part of it too, is that when we start playing a back four, you need to have more defensively sound fullbacks. I think that's true.
Need Tony Adams to come in, put his arm around Bellerin like he did with Lee Dixon and say, listen, son, figure out how to play this position first before you go trotting off up there.
Exactly. Thank goodness Sal Bellerin, he can't cross the ball. Lovely bloke, but goodbye. I do think that's something that he does struggle with is his final ball.
Yeah.
Cedric does have, when Arteta said that earlier, that Cedric has a certain type of quality in the final third that our other fullbacks don't have. I think that was kind of a clip on Bellerin. Like, he definitely does. He has the ability to do cutbacks that Bellerin just doesn't do. And I'm not sure why. He opts to do the floaty ball, just kind of randomly into the middle of the box to Lacazette and Aubameyang, 2 players that don't like the ball to hit their head. Whereas I just think if he would just calm himself down and do, just cut the ball back to feet, or even just put it in the, that corridor of uncertainty, he would do a lot better. I don't know why he hasn't improved that up to this point. I really don't know. BX Gunner 81 says it's about character and how hard they fight and play for the squad. Tierney has already outdone Bellerin. It's no surprise. I think we just like Tierney's brand of mentality better. I think Bellerin has done things where you can say that he worked hard for the team. If you remember back to the FA Cup final, we did win, because of some of the things that he's done. So I think it's a little bit unfair. I just think we like Tierney's brand of what he does a little bit more. And I do think Hector Bellerin suffers from the fans not understanding him outside of football. And those are not things that should even come into play, I think.
I think a lot of that is down to when you see Kieran Tierney on the pitch. Even on Sunday, he was getting the ball and he was about to make a throw in, and he's just eyeballing I don't know who it was, but he's just eyeballing a Leicester player like, yeah, you want to go? You want to go? You want to go? And the Leicester player just kept walking away. He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. Then he got the ball and he threw it in. But I think that's a little part of it is with Kieran Tierney. It seems like on the pitch if you're wearing a different color shirt than him, you're the enemy. Yeah. Period. You could be his best friend off the pitch, but if you're wearing a different color shirt than him, you're the enemy. You're the enemy for the next 90. You're the enemy for the next roughly 100 minutes. Mario, what's up, man? You're the enemy for the next 100 minutes. Period. End of story. And this business of knock you down, run over, help you up. No, get up on your own. That's Kieran Tierney. And I think that's what endears him to so many of us. Whereas Hector Bellerin, if we're going to compare the two, is the player that if you trip over Bellerin's feet, he's going to run back with, oh no, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Let me help you up. Can I get you a cup of tea? Do you need maybe have a lie down for a bit? Can I bring you a pillow and a blanket? Tierney will look at, he'll kick you while you're down. He'll walk over and he'll just step right on your throat. So that's maybe that's why I like him so much.
All right, enough Bellerin talk. So let's get into the goals. What I liked is that we were able to score goals in different ways. When is the last time we've been able to take advantage of a free kick in a dangerous area? That free kick, whatever you want to call it, a free kick play, I thought that was really good. And that's the first time this season that I think, besides Gabriel just muscling people out of the way and heading the ball into the back of the net, that was a really well-worked free kick, something that we haven't seen. And then we also scored, we had a penalty. I think being able to get penalties is more about getting into the areas where you would get them. And that's something that we haven't been able to do. We haven't had people, aggressively dribbling into the box and putting the defenders in pressure so that they make mistakes. Like, we pressured Leicester into making mistakes, so now we're starting to get more penalties. Lacazette, a very comfortable, confident penalty, but it was also set up by Nicola PEPE, which I loved. And then the last goal, gorgeous, almost like
Absolutely
vintage
brilliant.
Arsenal,
Yep.
So Tanner, just take me through that third goal and just kind of tell me how you saw it and where do you think the brilliance came from there?
Pace, speed, whatever you want to call it, making the smart pass, Pepe to Odegaard to Willian, chipping it over Lacazette and the defender, because remember, Willian and Lacazette were practically attached at the hip on that ball, chipping it right over. And Pepe, again, let's single him out. Let's isolate him, because this is brilliant from him. What does he do? He passes to Odegaard and he keeps moving forward. He doesn't stop to say, okay, I've done my bit. I'm out of the play now. It's up to you guys to put the ball in the net. He kept going forward and he stayed on side, which is huge. Pepe is the one that, in my opinion, really makes the third goal. Getting the ball and Odegaard's pass to Willian was utterly brilliant. This is an absolutely brilliant pass. Weighted perfectly. I was a little afraid that the defender was going to get there. Willian got there a hair before, chips it over the defender and Lacazette to a wide open, reading the newspaper, smoking a stogie, Nicolas Pepe. I mean, I was almost going to try to run over there to see if I could bring him a beer. Hey, man, you need a pint while you're waiting on this ball? I don't know. There's nobody else around you. You want somebody to talk to while you're waiting? I kind of thought like maybe he was lonely for a minute. He was so wide open and just standing there on an island by himself. But now Nicolas Pepe running into the box after he makes the pass. To me, that is to me the most important thing, because if he doesn't do that, there's nobody there. There's nobody there. So Odegaard made the pass and kind of slowed down. That's not him continuing to move forward is not the role that he plays. That's not his mentality. Pepe's mentality is get up there, and he kept going. So on the third goal, that is what I saw. And I'd like a chance.
I actually want to give a shout out to someone different, and I know I'm probably going to get an absolute.
You're going to say Jacques, aren't you?
A crowd of Arsenal fans coming at me now, but I want to give a special shout out to Xhaka, because not once but twice, right? The man found the absolute passion needed to make that move happen. Firstly, he battled with, I can't remember who, but there was like 2 or 3 players around him. And whilst the ball was in the air, he found Lacazette. And then what Lacazette did really well, and which is what we always praise him on, in his hold-up play. And then he found Xhaka again. And now Xhaka, what he does really smart is, rather than finding the easy pass, he goes right across to Pepe to allow him that space to bring the ball. And that's why I always say to people, don't underestimate Xhaka, because he can do this. And even against City, multiple occasions, he took Tierney through right and bypassed their defense. So he does have that ability in him. It's just about seeing that consistently. And then what Pepe does is just phenomenal. Like, this is what we want to see. And it's the driving run. And this is why I say, when I say about Odegaard, I watched him at Real Sociedad. And this is what Odegaard does. And the reason why he doesn't get the plaudit, so he's not the name we scream and shout, is because he does the simple things right. And that doesn't always get looked at. And then Willian, and I said it before, it's a disguised pass. Because a lot of players in that situation probably would have just tried to blast it near post and try and get a goal. But he played it smart. And you know what as well? Lacazette and Willian drove for that ball like their lives depended on it. They went, and even I'm surprised one of their hamstrings didn't go, because they ran with everything they had for that ball. And that's what we were seeing all game.
Yeah, that's very true. There was also like another, I think the best move of the game was the one move where, we were moving the ball really, really quickly, and it ended up with a Willian shot that went wide. Like, there were some things that we were doing in this game that was really impressive to me, because you can see that the layers that Arteta is bringing in to the game, the pressing, the quick, we were actually passing the ball quickly in this game. And you can tell that Arteta sets up the team based on the opponent. I think he knew that they were going to be tired. So he was like, pass this ball quickly. You even saw El Neni, somebody who against Man City was clearly coached to pass the ball backwards and keep possession. He was actually passing the ball forward and quickly in this game. So Arteta is really having, to me, and this is what I was talking about in the beginning, is that I learned a lot about this team, and I learned a lot about Arteta in this game, was that he's giving us layers to our play that can be used and deployed against different teams so we can beat them in different ways. He's very intelligent in that way. I think that the only time that he gets a little kind of rattled, or maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, is when things don't go our way, the plan doesn't go perfectly, and the in-game management. But he sets the team up really, really well based on the opponent, and we usually shine when he does this. I also think that this team coming back from 1-0 down was something that I needed to see, because I wasn't quite sure that we could do it. And we were able to press the entire game. We played really nice football the entire game. We were able to score in different ways, which was impressive to me. This game, to me, signifies a turning the corner for me. I don't know how you guys feel, but it does make me feel like this is something that I can hold on, that's tangible, that's showing me the next level that Arsenal can go to.
This is what I'm going to say about that. And I said this on Aftermath on Sunday after the match. I agree with everything that Jess just said, but I don't know that I'm going to look at it right now as a turning point. I think when you look at games as turning points or big moments in a season, I don't think sort of in the moment you can say that. I think we can look back on this game and say, this was a turning point. This is where it all started to click for this squad. And I was thinking the same thing on Sunday, but Lone Star Londoner put up 3 words. That's it. That's it. Consistency. Do not go up to Burnley and shit the bed and lose 2 or 3-0, 1, whatever the case. Don't lose. Don't lose. We're a better team than them. Beat them. You beat the teams you're supposed to beat. That's the mark of a good team. You're going to lose a game here and there, I get it, but this team is far, far too inconsistent for my liking right now. I want to be able to look back at this Leicester game and say, that's where the light bulb went off. Now go out there and get me 3 or 4 wins on the trot, and let's start stacking points and start moving up the table now, because I don't want to get too far off of this, but the league, European football, top 6, top 4, it's tough, but it's not impossible. It's not even improbable. It's unlikely, but it's doable. And a lot of the teams above us are playing each other. City, quite frankly, are going to be our second favorite team, because I think they play just about everybody in between us at some point from now to the end of the year. Come on, you citizens, let's go. Beat those teams for us and help. And if we can, like I said, win and we can climb up the table, we can get back into this thing. But it's going to take, like Lone Star said, it's going to take consistency. We cannot go up to Burnley now and lose that game, because if you go up to Burnley and you lose the game, it really undoes everything we just did on Sunday. That's the key to me. And if you go out,
just to add to what Tanner's saying, as a fan, right, going into the season, I wanted one thing. I wanted to find what we want to do moving forward. And credit to Baths, because he's done the research for me, because I was looking for these stats anyway. So Arsenal, we know since Christmas has turned into a 4-2-3-1 formation. This is primarily what we're playing. We haven't really changed from there. We might be dynamic in game, but that's pretty much how we start off. Now, we've played 12 games. We've won 7, drawn 2, and lost 3. That's 23 points accumulated out of the possible 36. We've scored 22 goals and conceded 9. Now, what I've always said is I want to find a system before the season ends, because that way we know who we need to bring in. And now Arteta's got that system playing the way he wants them to play. We're scoring goals for fun. And yeah, we are conceding, but guess what? The one thing we're not doing this season is getting battered. And that is an improvement on what we've done in previous years. Now, what Tanner says about Burnley, yeah, Burnley especially, we should not be losing to Burnley. You know, we should be going there, even if it's a 1-0, slugfest, we should be winning. Now, when we look at the other games, I think it's like Liverpool, and we've got Liverpool coming up, we've got Spurs coming up. They're the games where, you know what, you can understand, if you don't win them. But now that we've got this system, I hope Arteta sticks to his guns and understands how to manage these players. That's the one thing I now want to see from Arteta, because we're seeing Saka being a little bit on the burnt out side. Obviously, we've seen ESR being completely burnt out because he got an injury. And it was just because he was running and he was just tired. It didn't come from like a tackle or he was absolutely bullied off the ball or something. And that's now what we need to see, is the game management and the management of players.
Let me say something else real quick on Arteta. And Jess, you were saying this as well. Scoring goals in different ways, beating teams in different ways. That's the mark of a good coach. Your system isn't always going to work. Even against the teams that it should work against, it's not always going to work. So you have to have a plan B. Sometimes you have to have a plan C to get the job done. That's the mark of a good coach. A coach that just says, this is my system. I'm going to go out and I'm going to win every game with my system. You're not Pep Guardiola and you're not Manchester City. They're the best team in Europe, the most informed team in Europe, and they can do that right now. We can't. So we need to have the plan B and the plan C, where if the possession and intelligence game for us, that's the first thing. You play your system to start every game. And if you find that it's not working, what's plan B? You know what? Switch things up a little bit. Arteta yells from the touchline, switch things up a little bit, and you go to a slightly different tactic. Not necessarily a different there we go. I almost just tried to put somebody's comment up on the screen like I'm hosting the show. I'm like, why isn't this working? But like you said, Jess, you score in different ways, win games in different ways. Excuse me, I'm getting too excited here. That's the mark of a good coach, being able to adapt to the situations. I'm going to say this. For those of you that follow the NFL, many of you maybe don't, but the one thing that my favorite football team and their head coach, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, one thing that Bill Belichick preaches, and it's why he will go down as the best head coach, the best NFL coach of all time, situational football. And I can actually use that here too. Situational football. It goes for coaching. It goes for the players. You have to recognize every single situation that you are in and be able to adapt to that situation. I cannot state that enough. It cannot be understated. Sorry, I've
No, you're fine. I'm loving this. So you guys, we're on to the question section of the show. So make sure that you get your questions in for the panel, and I'll answer one if you'd like me to. I don't know if you want to even hear from me, because Sulz has been.
I'm saying. Like, yeah,
maybe it's just for Sulz, but
I'm sorry, I'll go now then.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
No, because then everybody will leave. No, they don't want to hear me and Tanner talk.
And on what Tanner was saying as well about having plans, that's the other thing. We need to give time to this club to bring those plans in, because unfortunately, that's the issue. We don't have the squad. And when I talk about squad, I don't mean, oh yeah, we can bring a Martinelli on to change the game because he's a like-for-like substitution. It's about having, when we had Giroud, for example, and we had Lacazette, or we had a Aubameyang or Giroud coming on, that's the plan B. It's a Giroud. And now what we have is a Lacazette, and who do we bring on? Aubameyang. They're very similar. They don't really do different things or move differently or offer different threats. And that's all we've got to focus on now moving forward.
Yup. All right. We got some questions. So, do you see Arsenal? Thank you, The Assemble. Thank you for your question, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Do you see Arsenal winning the league within the next 5 years or after 5 years? I don't even feel like answering this one because I don't know what to say. Tanner, you go.
There's so many levels to this. This is like a blooming onion at Outback, man. There's just so many levels.
We need another show just specifically dedicated to this particular question.
That's great. The Assembled. This is a show right here. You just gave us another show idea. In the next 5 years or after 5 years, man, oh man, it's tough. I'm actually going to be optimistic. I'm going to say I can see us winning it in the next 5 years. Now, do I think we will? Honestly, no. I hate to say it, but no. And that has more to do with other clubs than just us. I think we will challenge for it within the next 2 seasons. I really do. I think we can challenge. I think we can challenge next year for it. I think we'll be in the conversation in the next 5 years.
Yeah, call me a fool, but if we stick with Arteta and we get our recruitment right, I 100% believe in Arteta to win us the league in the next 5 years. But that it's not to do with Arteta. It's about the fan base being patient enough to understand what's needed to be done. And for Edu and Kroenke or Vina, whoever it is, right, that's responsible for recruitment, to back the man. Because if Pep Guardiola's come out and said, if you give him the players, he'll show you what he can do. That's Pep Guardiola, the man we look to, for inspiration and managerial masterclasses. So call me a fool, but even honestly, I just don't believe the board can win us it. But I do believe in Arteta with the right backing can definitely win us it in 5 years.
It's going to be the right recruitment, like you said, Sulz. It's all down to her. This team will look. This is a massive myth that is just perpetuated by the fan base that we don't spend money. It's 110% not true. It is not true. We've spent the money. The problem is we've spent it poorly. Nicolas Pepe, and I don't want to rain on his parade here. He's not worth 72 million pounds. He's just not. Even if he puts in performances like he did on Sunday, like game in, game out, he could increase his value to that. But when we bought him, 40 million tops. So that's just, it's not poor recruitment because I like the player. There's definitely a player there.
I think it's the right player, wrong time.
It's right player, wrong price is what it is.
And the wrong time, I think as well,
yeah.
because
I think we needed to build a solid structure before we got the luxury player that could come in, because he's never going to be a starter day in and day out. He's kind of like he's an accessory, and we didn't really build the foundation first. And that's true. I think a part of why he's, sorry to cut you off, Sulz, but I do think that
I think it's also what Tanner's saying is actually right. It's the price as well, because if we think about what we could have done for 72 million pounds, or even if you wanted to say we've got him in for 30, 40, the other 30 million that we could have spent could have got us that party earlier on, or someone like him, or a Basuma before he went to Brighton, or an Anguissa before he went to Fulham. And that's why I always say it's down to the right recruitment rather than just buying players for the sake of buying. And one thing I do want to say to the fan base, stop being stush. I don't know whether that's a bad word in America, but it just means stop being posh and stop being entitled, because there's players in the Championship who are good enough. When we got Nicolas Pepe, guess who we could have got? Jack Grealish for guess how much? 40 million pounds. But he's a Championship player, so we don't want him.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like, the recruitment is so important. And when we got Pepe, I was pissed. I was so angry because I was thinking to myself, we're linked with Partey, we're linked with Upamecano, which is clearly the two positions that we needed to look at what Edu and Arteta did the moment they got in. What did they do? They got a center back and some sort of box-to-box midfielder. But the Cronkies and Raul, well, they had ulterior motives. They both had different motives, but basically the Cronkies were trying to placate the fans by bringing in a big name, somebody exciting. We don't need somebody exciting. You know what we're excited about? Winning games. Now Nicolas Pepe is just now trying to find his feet, but Nicolas Pepe should be coming into the squad next season, because we should have had Thomas Partey and Upamecano a year prior, so it's just about the layering and being able to attack things in the right order. And I think we kind of went out of order, but now we're kind of seeing things align. And I just want to kind of move on to this question because I think it's really important. Lone Star Londoner asks, do Arsenal need to solve the engine of the team, the middle of the park, to really kick on? As good as Xhaka has been, I think he is doing great. And I think his role in the side could be either a rotational role or a starting role. But what you saw with El Neni is something that I think that's the position we need to upgrade on, is El Neni. I think El Neni is the position that we need to get a better player, a smarter player, and a player that's going to come across and whack that ball out and not just back into the box. I don't know why he did that. I don't know if that's lack of motivation or confidence or, whatever. But that's where I think we need to upgrade to a Basuma or an Anguissa or somebody like that. Somebody that's going to cut across and sweep things up, because we see that Thomas is not that player. He's not a CDM. He's not. We need one, to rotate with Thomas Partey and Xhaka. I think the rotation of those three, maybe plus one more, maybe an Aziz or something like that, is the next level we need to get to. And that's a part of the engine. And I think that's going to put us in a different category of midfields, having rotation and depth and quality, that's kind of what I think about that. Does anybody else want to add on to that before I move on to the next question?
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's not finding a replacement for Xhaka necessarily, and I do think Xhaka is a brilliant squad player. He's someone who, whenever you call upon him, he'll be ready. He's fit for basically, he can play the 30, he can play the entire season and probably not pick up an injury. He's just that kind of player. And this is what I'm saying, because like Partey now has these injuries, and we're now starting to see the niggly injuries coming in. I don't know whether that's because we're rushing him back or whether he comes back and he is actually 100% fit. But then, with muscles, you never know. Like they can always you can never see that happen. So yeah, we need to upgrade the squad more than we need to, like the bench or the fringe players and the sort of the players you call upon, if that makes sense. I hope. Like in my head, it makes sense. I don't know whether it's actually coming out to making sense, but that's what we need.
The word is upgrade. That's exactly right. If we can upgrade Granit Xhaka, which we can, you upgrade him, and that's not to again rain on Granit Xhaka's parade, because he has played extremely well over the last 2 months, extremely well. I think he had maybe like one below average game in there somewhere, but overall he's played very well. But we can upgrade on him, and we can probably upgrade on Granit Xhaka for 40 to 45 million.
Even less than that if we're smarter. I just think that, I love Basuma, but if they're gonna ask us for 40 million, let's go over to France and get Samare for 20 something, or try to get Fulham to give us Anguissa. These are also the things that we have to think about. What could we get for 40, and get the similar profile, but that's Edu's job,
It's going to be spending the money that we have available correctly, because we're going to have to spend money this summer. We are going to have to bring players in just based on the players that we've lost and players that we're going to inevitably lose this summer. We're going to sell a few players on. So, we're going to be spending some money this summer.
Let's talk about that just a little bit. Like, I want to pivot into this question from Chico Curtis, but I kind of want to expand it a little bit more in not just what system we're going to be playing, but in order to play that system, who's going to have to leave and who's going to have to come in. Because I think we're talking a lot about the front four, and I love the fact that we have an interchangeable front four. We have a lot of attacking options, but it needs to be streamlined. And with Aubameyang, basically Chico Curtis asked, which system do you see us using in the final third? Because we've got one with Aubameyang and one with Laka. I think that the upgrade in this scenario is taking Eddie and Laka out and upgrading on that player and making that player be the type of striker that Arteta wants. Aubameyang is not the type of striker that Arteta needs for his system. It's really a combination of the, kind of like what Aubameyang is, where he's the best striker. He's a world-class striker, a world-class poacher. But Lacazette having the ability to build up play is something that we need. We kind of need a fusion of the two, and I think it also needs to be a modern, younger player, So what do you guys think about the system? Personally, I think it's a fusion. I think Aubameyang needs to go to just kind of fall back a little bit. We need to invest in a striker like an Hudson Edouard or a Ivan Toney, somebody that can do both, can do all, and I think the system is more, I personally think we're going to go with the Odegaard system, with Saka, and Emile Smith-Rowe is going to be the other option, or maybe the player on the left. What do you guys think about it? Like, if you had to guess who's going to leave and who's going to go, and how do we structure the system in the final third, what do you guys think?
I've got a very out there structure, which is what I think Arteta is going to do. And this is the man that, we've all been waiting to see, and that's Martinelli. And I think what he's trying to do is get him disciplined enough to be that striker. The problem that I'm going to tell you what the problem with Martinelli and why I believe he's not being played. It's not about, I know someone said about training. I've always said Martinelli's like an angry bulldog. He loves to just chase people. And what that does, it ruins the structure you're trying to play with. But I think that's when the discipline comes in, and with age and with a bit more experience, he'll get to that level. And when you're talking about who we're going to bring out and who I think the system's going to be going into the final third, unfortunately, I saw Aubameyang and Martinelli being that striker and Lacazette to be the one sold. And I still do think it's going to be Lacazette sold. But unfortunately, Aubameyang's goals have dried up, whether that's due to all the personal things that he's going through or whether that's just because he's now, because he's aging and we've not had that preseason break, maybe he's fatigued. We don't fully know. And you've said the perfect name when you talk about, the merger of the two, and that is Edouard, in my opinion. He's coming from Celtic. He's got pace. He's got strength. He's got the ability to play, that sort of build-up play that Lacazette has. But he's got bags of goals in him. He can header the ball. He can strike it on a volley. He can score outside the box. And he's a merger of a lot of players that we're looking to get in one. And that would be a very exciting. Obviously, Erling Haaland would be my absolute, dream signing. But he's got a lot of suitors who would probably be a little bit better of an option to go to. But I do think what we need is Odegaard to start doing what he did at Sociedad and score outside the box a lot more, and that midfielder who brings in the goals. And yeah, I mean, we've got to be excited as Arsenal fans, especially the way I'm seeing the football being played. And unfortunately, I do think Laka is going to be that player that's going to allow the window to go the way it is.
And Eddie.
I just don't know what we'll get for him. I just don't know what we'll.
I would take 10. I would take 10. He's clogging up the spot. Like, he's not getting any playing time. He's not going to fit in the system. And Martinelli should be, if there's three strikers, Aubameyang, a new person, it should be Martinelli next, and Martinelli should rotate on the left as well. We need to slim down, trim the fat. That's just what I'm going to say. Eddie doesn't really add much, but that's beside the point. Tanner, how are you building? How do you think we're going to build the front four moving forward?
Odsonne Edouard, I'm with you guys. I'd absolutely love to see him come in here for everything you just said. Arteta's style, his system is sort of predicated on having that striker that like Lacazette that can hold up play and allow the three players in behind him to be the playmakers, get into a position where, Lacazette can make a pass and somebody else score, or, they get into a position where they drag a defender away, which opens up a window for a shot from Lacazette. So that's what I think you're going to see Arteta try to do really next year. And Edouard really fits that bill really well. I think you're going to see Aubameyang probably finish his career, at least here anyway, out on the left. I think that's where he makes the most sense at this point. I've been screaming for a long time to see him through the middle when he wasn't playing through the middle. But playing him out on the left, he's just better out there in this system. So bringing a player that's a little more dynamic than Lacazette, and I think Edouard at this point, at this stage of their careers is that player. I think that's the way he's going to look to build this. But that being said, the three players in behind the striker are going to be agents of chaos, as I've now kind of coined that phrase for them. Ryan from the Ars Pros, shout him out real quick. He calls it the pinwheel of death, and they're all just sort of interchangeable. Lacazette's the exception to that. Lacazette's really not that interchangeable. But if it's Aubameyang through the middle with, say, ESR out on the left, Odegaard in behind, and if it's Pepe or Saka out on the right, these guys can really you just don't know what's happening. You really just don't. Where's it going to come from this time? Because all of a sudden, Odegaard's out on the right, Saka's in the middle. Saka's where Aubameyang should be through the middle. ESR's been in behind. All of a sudden, Aubameyang's out on the left. It's like, wait, what? And now you have no idea what to do. It's create chaos. Basically, just create chaos down there. But I think the way that Arteta wants to play, Edouard really fits that bill, and he should be relatively affordable because Celtic have had a shit season. And I don't know how many goals he scored for them up there this year, but from what I'm hearing, he's had a bit of a down season. this year.
But that being said, he's still bagging goals.
Right, and that's down to Celtic as a squad, not Edouard. But go get that kid for 30 million. Sell Lacazette, sell Eddie. Between the two of them, 35 to 40 mil. I would think that should be enough to fund Edouard and with a little bit left over, quite frankly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, we're in a good place in terms of attacking options. We still have some players that are going to develop, like ESR is definitely going to develop, and Martinelli. So we have good things to look forward to. And now that we've kind of solidified the midfield and the defense, we can kind of look at, we've been scoring quite a bit of goals, recently, so things are working, but I do think Arteta is going to want somebody a little bit more, with a little bit more technical ability to play center forward. So not quite sure where that leaves Aubameyang, but we'll see. So you guys smash the likes and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to get to Harry's question because I think it's a really good one. So stay with us for this. I'm really interested to see what you guys say. DJ Harry. Hey, Harry. Asked the question, we have a Europa League final tomorrow. Who is your back four and who is your front three? So let's expand that to front four, since that's what we were talking about. These are the players that we have. We're not talking about people outside of that. I'm going to go with Sulz first.
Wow, this is hard. This is very hard.
Good question, Harry. I love it.
All right. I have got my answer now. I would go personally. Is this saying everyone's fit, or is this saying like what we kind of know already?
Let's say everybody's fit.
All right, perfect. So I'd go CEDRIC, Mari, Gabriel. No, I'd go David Luiz and Gabriel, just because they have played together, and Tierney. And my front three would be Saka down on the right, Pepe on the left, and this is a shocker, but I'd go Aubameyang down the middle, because and I'll explain why I've gone with that system. Because Aubameyang is a big game player. Every time you call upon this man, he will answer that call. And that's what he did against Benfica. And I think we're not going to get enough chances, whoever we play in the Europa League final. Like, if you're going from your typical kind of string of teams who could make this cup final. And we're going to get probably a few chances to put that in the back of the net. And I think Aubameyang's that kind of player. And then when we've got Pepe is just so direct that he causes so many confusions and questions for any defense in the world. And when he's got Tierney behind him, man, this guy's just going to be unplayable. And then Saka,
But who is behind?
I can make a whole 2 hours of streams on him. I'd put Odegaard.
Okay. All right. Tanner, you're in the hot seat.
The only change I'm making, I agree 100% with the no, what'd you say? Gabriel and David Luiz is in the back four, right? Is what you said, Sulz?
Yeah.
And then CEDRIC and Tierney as the fullbacks. Yep. I agree with all of that. And this is assuming, like Harry said, Europa League final tomorrow. So, or next game. We'll say it's our next game. Yeah. David, yeah. Man, oh man, I don't know about David Luiz. I might change that up to Rob Holding. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm going to be a little different. I am going to go with Rob Holding. David Luiz he still has that brain lapse in him, and I don't know that I trust him in a final. So yeah, I'm going to go with Rob Holding, and I will stick with Gabriel. I think he's better than Pablo Marie. I know that Holding and Marie really developed a bit of a good chemistry there back in January, but I'm going to go with what I think are my best players there. I'm going to go with Rob Holding. I just trust him more than I trust David Luiz there. Front four, Bukayo Saka on the right, Martin Odegaard in behind. A little different here. You might think I'm crazy for it because it typically hasn't worked so far this season, but I'm going Aubameyang on the left, and I am going to go Lacazette in the middle. It's tough because it's like, boy, do you really want to leave Pepe out of this? But you got to make a decision. A decision has to be made here, and if it's this, I'm saying I kind of want that experience in there. These guys know what it's about. That's what I'm going to go with, because I think Aubameyang and Pepe that close together, Aubameyang through the middle and Pepe just in general out there, I think they're too similar. And I think they can make things too congested for themselves, not for anybody else. I think they kind of detract from each other a little bit. And I think Lacazette and Aubameyang, they can find some chemistry. I'm going to tell you this right now. If Lacazette and Aubameyang play together at any point and they can develop a little bit of the chemistry that they had at the end of last season, look out. Because now you put in a Martin Odegaard behind them and a Bukayo Saka, who's arguably our player of the year on the right. I'm telling you, that attack is sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. So I'm trusting those guys, but I'm taking this caveat. If it's a Europa League final, I get 5 substitutes. And if my system isn't working through 20 to 30 minutes, I'm making a change in that front 4. I'll make a change in that. I'll make 2 changes. If I have to bring David Luiz on for Rob Holding, I'll bring him on. If I have to bring Pepe on for Lacazette and move Aubameyang through the middle with 5 subs, I can do that too. So that's kind of the cheap way out of that one, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to give you my full 11 for the whole the squad. I'm just going to do that. It's really difficult because I'm kind of like recency bias.
I want to see Runnerson in there.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Runnerson for sure. But obviously
instead of Thomas Partey, right? Like you're gonna put him in.
So Leno, Bellerin. I know that's probably a shocker. Bellerin, Luiz, Gabriel, Tierney, Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard, Emile Smith-Rowe on the left, Aubameyang up top, and Saka on the right. I just think that I'd want to see more of that. I think anybody who plays this in a Europa League final is going to sit back on us because that's the easiest way to keep us from scoring goals, is to make us have to wait with the methodical passing. And so I think anybody who we play, if they're smart, that's what they do. So I want as many technicians out there as possible. I need Pepe to come in, be able to come in. When he starts out bad, he usually just continues on bad. So I think I want to give Emile Smith-Rowe another shot on the left-hand side. And I also think that he never shirks his defensive duties, which is something, if you haven't noticed that about Emile Smith-Rowe at this point, he does go back and make sure that he defends. And I don't really know if I trust Pepe or Martinelli in that situation in the Europa League final. And Aubameyang, big game player, best striker at the club. Odegaard is really the only one who can find him. And Bukayo Saka, that's what I would go with. And Bellerin, I think, plays well with Saka. And that's the only reason why I wouldn't pick CEDRIC. So, yep, that's my 11. So, you guys, great show. Great show. I think the panel was obviously amazing. So let's tell everybody where they can find you and what's the next thing that they can look forward to if they, want to find you on the internet.
Yeah, so it's a Gooner Sulz on YouTube and then at Let's Debate Footy on Twitter. The very next thing is actually tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about the process, captain, whether we have one in the club or not. And we're going to be talking about how we're going to move forward. And I think it's going to be quite an interesting one because and I've seen a lot of the fan base being confused by what the process is. And I've got a panel who have actually we've dug into this. Obviously, even today I've been speaking a little bit on that. And yeah, if you want to look forward to that, that is tomorrow. I mean, I know the UK time. I know America's got so many different timings. I don't know what it'll be there, but it will be. So, I mean, if you want to know it, it'll be about an hour from now. So it'll be about 8, 9 o'clock in the evening.
So 3 or 4 o'clock in America for us here on the East Coast.
Yeah, so like 12 o'clock for me, 1 o'clock. So if you guys don't follow him, follow him. If you're not subscribed to his channel, subscribe. What are you doing?
And shame on you for 6 weeks if you're not.
Yeah, and all of his information is in the description box. So if you're, confused or you didn't hear it or something, go and follow him. He's amazing. Obviously, his debut on here was killer, so please go follow Gooner Sulz.
Putting us to shame, Jess.
Not me, just you.
Whoa!
Like I said, he said everything I would have said. So
wow.
Yeah.
Can we get a poll? Because I think my beard's looking a little bit better today.
I don't know, man.
You guys, before you leave or in the comment section, let's do a poll really quick. Who has the better beard? The bearded Gooner, Tanner, or Gooner Sulz? Let us know. Tanner, where can they find you? I mean, we're on your channel.
Yeah, you're already on the channel, and thank you, because we surpassed 700 subscriptions just while we were doing the show. So awesome. Big shout out to Jess for all the work that she has done on this channel. Fantastic stuff. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Much appreciated. You guys know where I'm at on Twitter. It's the Bearded Gooner. So Twitter limits you to, can't make it the, it has to be duh. So that's how the cool kids say it anyway. So show tonight, same old Arsenal USA. I've got Mike from the Gooners Pod, Sophie Nicolau from the Highbury Squad, Gary at Don't Waste the Tweet, and Ars Bros Ryan might be making an appearance. He's not sure. He's out of town, might not have a reliable internet connection, but he's going to try. It is the crossover event of the season. We're doing a little podcast with the podcasters tonight. Going to be a good show. 9 o'clock East Coast time, Lone Star. So it's 45 minutes before usual kickoff. We're going 45 minutes earlier, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. That would be 2 a.m. Sulz, if you're still awake over there in the UK on the other side of the Emirates. So that's where you can find us. Find me.
Awesome.
Find Yins.
So you guys, as you know, the show is also on Apple and Spotify, and I usually try to get it up within the next couple of hours. So go ahead and follow the podcast there. I'm on Twitter at It's Jessinho. You can follow me there also. And honestly, I'm having a brain fart, so I can't think of what the next thing is for me. So just follow me on Twitter, and I'll let you know there. I'm horrible today. But yeah, you guys, great show. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.